King, the Wildfire, Queen, the Plague. Where are they? And what are they going to do next? That is the $1 million question nobody in 2026 is asking. So I decided to ask instead by doing what I do best and holding a couple of polls. So, as you guys see right here, 4 weeks ago, yeah, I know, we're tackling this kind of late. 4 weeks ago, I held a poll asking that very simple question. Where is King the Wildfire and Queen the Plague? And I listed 4 options right here. Option number 1 is that they're simply at Impel Down with the rest of the criminals, which would be pretty good because that would put them in league with Doflamingo, Bon Clay, and there's one more person I'm missing. Weevil! Weevil's there as well. If there were a breakout, King the Wildfire, Queen the Plague would escape with them, and that would be phenomenal. We'd knock out so many players with one fell plot point. Next up, the second option says that they are simply at Udon prison, because last we saw, they were in Wano. So if Admiral Greenbull didn't bring them back to Impel Down, then they'd simply be imprisoned by the Wano citizens. Next up, the third option is that they're simply at a random marine base. And this is a weird one, but we have seen characters be held at random ass prisons for a while, like Crocodile, for example. He was in a random marine prison cell before being transported to Impel Down. Another great example would be Arlong. We didn't see him at Impel Down, but Hachi did infer that he was at prison. So that's a little bit odd. So yeah, he could be at G5, G7, G12, G38. You know, just put a G in front of a marine base and it exists. So the last option simply says that they are actually free right now. Those guys are roaming the open seas because Aramaki didn't bring them back to Impel Down, and none of the Wano citizens could actually contain these boys. Personally, I think they're at Impel Down. Last we saw King was during the Vegapunk broadcast. We didn't really see where King was at, but it looked like he was imprisoned somewhere, so I don't want to say that they're actually free. I think he is behind bars, and I like to put him at Impel Down simply because when there's a jailbreak, which we all know is coming, it's one of the worst kept plot points out there, but we know that they're going to break out. We need Bon Clay back. We need Doflamingo. We need Magellan back in this story. We need Weevil. Weevil hasn't done anything yet. We need these guys out. So if King and Queen were there, it would just be the easiest way to bring them back into the story without making it a whole Udon prison thing, right? Because if they're not in Impel Down, we need Momonosuke to release them. We need somebody to attack Wano and release them. So I just think Impel Down is the simplest solution. As far as how they got there, I think it is as simple as Admiral Greenbull beat them, and then he just took them away. I mean, that's the thing, right? When Shanks stopped Aramaki from attacking Wano, we didn't see Aramaki leave, right? He simply put his hands in his pocket. He said, whatever. And then he walked away. He didn't leave the island yet. And last we saw during the King and Queen segment, after he beat them, he said, hey, bring me a Navy ship. I think he just simply waited for the Navy ship. And then when the Navy ship showed up, that is when he officially left Wano. That is my headcanon. Of course, we didn't see any of that, but we do know that he called a ship beforehand, before Shanks stopped him. So I think he simply waited for a ride out of there. Of course, he could have flown out of there as well. But another thing about Aramaki that we know about is that he did pick up Weevil on his way out. So that is the thing, right? He does have a ship by the next time we see him. So I think he simply had the ship show up to Wano, and then boom, Sphinx Island, got Weevil, Impel Down. I think it is as simple as that. And you gotta admit, that's a pretty crazy track record. Yes, he did lose to Shanks without ever putting up a fight, but he got King, Queen, and Weevil, and that's not an easy task for most people. So yeah, I think Impel Down is the simplest solution. It makes the most sense. Udon Prison wouldn't be bad either. I think I'd just be scared to have them in Wano, because the minute Yamato leaves, King and Queen are like the strongest people there, brother. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Sea Stone, it stops them, but if anybody were to ever release these guys and Yamato's not home, maybe I should hold a poll. Could the Scabbards and Momonosuke beat them? We did see that the Scabbards were fighting King and Queen during Odin's era, so it's not absurd, but we're also missing a couple of Scabbards now, right? Conjuro, well, Conjuro always a villain, not here anymore, not fighting by our side. Izo is dead. Ashura Doji is dead. King and Queen versus Wano. I mean, Momonosuke. If Momonosuke has actually been training this entire time, if he's been mastering hockey in his Devil Fruit, maybe they do win. You know what? I'm gonna say Wano wins, but it's not easy. It's gonna be like a high diff battle if they were let loose. So yeah, I generally like the Impel Down route just because it's a great way, an easy way to get King back into the story, because we know a jailbreak will happen there eventually. But being realistic, if King were in Udon prison, he could get broken out of there too. And that would simply be through either Cross Guild or Blackbeard. We know that Cross Guild is currently going after the One Piece, and to do that, they need to go get the road poneglyphs. So if they do go to Wano, perhaps they run into King in Udon prison, and they simply break him and Queen out. And then as far as Blackbeard goes, we know that he's after the ancient weapons. He has Caribou in his possession. Caribou knows about Pluton, he knows about Shirahoshi. So if Blackbeard goes to Wano, maybe that is when King gets broken out, during all of the confusion and chaos. So yes, I think there are ways to make the Udon prison theory work. And realistically, I'm down for either Udon prison or Impel Down. I just think Impel Down has the most names there, so that's why I put him there. But Udon prison isn't a bad route, despite me not exactly believing in it. And just for comparison, but if you look at the Udon prison cell right here, the walls are very different compared to Impel Down, and King doesn't seem to have this background. So I would err more towards Impel Down than Udon prison. Granted, there could be more prison cells, but this is simply the one that Kid and Luffy were thrown into. On to the comment section just to see what everybody is saying. Top comment says, with barbell. Oh, dude, if only. At Lodestar, that's what you're saying? I believe they're in Udon prison because there was no Marines or known ship to escort them after Green Bull, who was pressured by Shanks to leave shortly after. See, this is the main thing too. Like I said, we didn't see Green Bull leave Wano. He simply threw up his hands and then he just walked back. I don't think Shanks stayed around to see if Green Bull would like leave the island all the way. I think Green Bull waited off the coast and just got the ship out there, right? Let me make sure I'm not like, blowing smoke up our ass. Green Bull did ask for a ship, right? Yeah, here it is. That booze wasn't anything special. You should have let it age longer. Ring, ring, ring. Hello, this is ... Yeah, I'm in Wano. Bring a warship over. Don't tell Sakazuki what I'm up to. Got it. See ya. Which, funny dude. His phone etiquette is not that great. He's kind of rude, but yeah, I think he simply waited for his warship. Like I said, we know he had a warship because he picked up Weevil. So I think he waited off the coast, got the warship here, and then he took good old King and Queen. That's my headcanon. People forget that Impel Down is on the other side of the red line from where Wano is, and there's not been enough time to get him all the way there, so it has to be a random Marine base. I would argue there is enough time because the Straw Hats were in Wano for a while, right? It's not like we beat Kaido and then we left right away. No. Like, we were there for a good minute. I think Aramaki did have enough time to do all of that. And the thing about Marine warships is that they do have the sea stone underneath the ships, so they can actually travel across the comm belt, which makes traversing the world of One Piece a lot quicker. And by the time the Vegapunk message hit, first up, that's like a whole nother day on there. It took a while to get to Egghead. I'd say Aramaki had like a little bit over a week to bring King, Queen, and Weevil to Impel Down, and I think it could work. I definitely think it could work. And, comm belt aside, they also have the whole thing with the Gates of Justice, which, the whirlpools make traveling a lot faster in between those areas. I don't think it's absurd. King is going to be actually really important to the story, as a Lunarian is seen on the mural, so he'll for sure come back in the final war. Yeah, and one big thing as well about King is that he is a guy who knows about Joyboy. He knows about Nika. So I think his importance is going to be massive. And one thing about King too is that he talked about how initially the Lunarians lived on top of the Red Line. Currently, that is where the Celestial Dragons live. So he is an OG inhabitant of that island or that area. I think it would be awesome if he came back during the final war to drop lore on the Red Line, especially Shangara, which I think that new location is where the Lunarians used to live. But of course, nowadays, that is where the God Knights reside. So yeah, I think that'd be pretty damn awesome. And as far as like the final war goes too, I just feel like everybody's gonna show up, so why not King? Why not King? They just showed King hearing Vegapunk's message in the anime, and he seemed like he was chillin'. He looked like he was in a prison, right? Yeah, it doesn't simply use capture. I assume Green Bull never truly arrested them after being scared off by Shanks. Okay, let me look at that image. Okay, so this is an image of King right now. He's bandaged up, so he is treated. He is treated. But the walls, the background of this image reminds me of Impel Down. Like go back to the Impel Down cells. It looks exactly like that. Like he's in level 6. Also, just gotta say, King looks kind of great right here, man. King looks phenomenal. But yeah, I would say, would he be chilling? I don't know. I mean, when you're that wounded, are you chilling? I'm not too sure. And as far as like the whole Vegapunk message, by the way, we do know that Doflamingo, who is currently in level 6 of Impel Down, he's listening to the message. So seeing King during all of this, I think makes sense. Especially if they're like, you know, next door neighbors or cellmates or something. So yeah, that's my headcanon. Like, but then again, I am open to most of these. The only one I dislike is probably just Actually Free. I don't know. Actually Free. Yeah. If he was free, I would just like to see where he's at more so than just like this right here. This says, I think Queen needs to somehow join New Mads. I want Albert to interact with Nika Luffy too. Yep, if Queen were to go anywhere, I think Neo Mads just makes the most sense. I mean, it's the second coming of the boy band. Judge is there, Caesar's there. Bring Queen. Bring Queen onto the roster. I think he would fit in phenomenally. Hell, bring Lilith in. Get the evil Mads team going, dude. Why not? Well, then again, I'd say one reason not to do that is because they'd just be evil, but who knows? Maybe they'll have a soft spot for the Straw Hats because the Straw Hats are those guys now. How the hell is Green Bull going to carry them to Impel Down? They're huge and didn't take a ship there. Like I said earlier, you know, Green Bull called a ship over. Bring a ship to Wano. I think he simply waited for it after Shanks sent him off. That's my prerogative right now. King the Wildfire is a pawn in Andrew's game. Dude, the And is evil theory, huh? It's been a while since I heard that one. Last time we saw them, they were in Udon. Green Bull said send a warship to Wano after he defeated them. But then Shanks Wi-Fi hockeyed him, and we didn't see him leave Wano with them. Green Bull and Drake were the only Marines to enter Wano. I doubt they took them with them. So when Queen and King didn't leave on their own, they are probably still in Udon. Yeah. That's the thing with this, right? There's a lot of ambiguity here because we just did not see Aramaki leave outright. This one says, I say they're actually free because Shanks scared Green Bull and he had to leave just right after. Either free or Udon because Aramaki went solo and maxed them out, but I don't remember anything about him capturing King and Queen on the same Marine ship where Weevil and Green Bull are. Ooh, still on a Marine ship. Yeah, I guess this would kind of fall in line with the whole thing where it's like, oh, like, you know, Impel Down is very far away. I'm not sure that they were actually really captured. Green Bull dipped out fast, and I kind of doubt they just let a Marine ship into Wano without Green Bull there to protect it. Let me see. Okay. Let's check out the chapter where Green Bull leaves because of Shanks. He doesn't like leave. He simply throws his hands up and he just walked away. All right, so here it is. Shanks says, does the new age frighten you that much? Sends out the Wi-Fi hockey, and Aramaki says, I get it already. It's not like I want to pick a fight with you guys. Not today anyways. And then he simply just walks away. We don't see him leave Wano. We don't see him fly away. So that is why I think he simply waited for the warship because it's already, you know, on the move. But again, that is just my headcanon. We don't exactly know what went down. This says, isn't the WG hunting Lunarians? Would they not just try to kill King if they got him instead of holding him prisoner? I feel like he'll be important in some way later. So I'm saying not Impel Down. It would be crazy if we go to Marie Joie and King was there. I think that'd be fascinating. That would be a really good way to separate King out from the rest of the cast. Because with Impel Down, he'd have to like, you know, follow one of them or just go his own way for a little bit. But if he was at Marie Joie as a slave, then he would meet Nika firsthand. He would meet Luffy, Joyboy firsthand. Maybe that's better. Yeah. And maybe they see the wings, they see the face, and they're like, yo, send him to the Holy Land. Send him to Shangara. Dude, imagine that. In the final war, we're going to see Garling, and he's going to be flying down on King's back. Ooh, that would be a crazy entrance. Yo, yeah. The God Knights show up, and they're all riding King, who's in his pterodactyl form or something. Yeah, they tamed him. Anime kind of revealed that King is in Impel Down. Yeah, it kind of looks like it. Like I said, the blocks remind me of Impel Down. But realistically, you know, you could see these blocks anywhere. Like, for all we know, he could be inside of Pika. Which, be kind of nasty, huh? Wasn't King shown in the recent anime episode? Yep, that is why I held the poll, by the way. You know, going back 4 episodes, I was like, yo, like, this is pretty cool. It looks like we got a little bit more clarification on him. I don't know why I thought Queen had linked up with Judge again. This was in the cover page story. We saw Mads in the past, but that is not current day. Kings, a spicy chicken nugget. Now you're ringing the bell. They're on Punk Hazard 2.0. Dude, imagine that. They're just experimenting again. But the thing with that is that they don't have Vegapunk anymore, so how are they going to experiment? Maybe York? Ooh, York. Yeah, they're sending his ass to York. They're like, hey, bring King to the Holy Land. The new saint of scientific defense, Saint Garling, and York will work on this guy. Ooh. This says, I'm just saying, a team up with the first tier Yonko commanders, King, Katakuri, and Marco breaking into Impel Down would look cool. It would. I definitely agree with that. You people are dumb. They're an Udon unless Oda suddenly states otherwise. Wait, let me see. What's the poll result again? 57%. I think it's the most reasonable one, right? Impel Down, Udon Prison, they make a lot of sense. And like I said, with Impel Down, you can just knock out so much with that simple escape. Which, funny enough, Oda wanted to do an Impel Down breakout for Film Red, which I'm glad they didn't go with, because if they actually did break out of Impel Down during Film Red, that wouldn't be canon, right? So one of the OG things was that Impel Down, in Film Red's manuscript, it was a flying prison, and apparently the plot revolved around Bon Clay breaking out. And I'm like, yo, save that for the canon material then. Which, apparently the editors shut that one down. I read that from Artur, I believe. And I just thought that was insane. Let me see if I can find the tweet real quick. Yeah, here's the Artur tweet, one of them. It says, during Film Red, the idea arose that Uta would be visiting the new Impel Down to comfort the prisoners, but would use her devil fruit to break them out of the prison, leading an insurrection in an attempt to take over the world. This is how Uta's character first came to be. And then this says that the scriptwriter reveals the movie was originally going to be a prison break film, with the objective being to rescue Mr. 2 from the flying prison. What a crazy concept, man. Flying prison Impel Down wouldn't be bad, and I feel like we might get something like that in the canon story. Because Doflamingo, right? When Doflamingo heard the Vegapunk message and they talked about the world sinking, Doflamingo was mocking Magellan, but he said, hey, shouldn't we go somewhere high up? Which I'm assuming he was referring to Marie Joie, but, he could have also been just talking about flying in the sky. And yeah, I don't know, man. Impel Down, it's got to come back at some point. So, on to the next poll. This is a simple one. I didn't hold this for Queen, because more or less we know where Queen's going to go, right? He's probably just going to join Neo Mads. I feel like that would just overwhelmingly win. But as far as King goes, what will he do when he comes back into the story? AKA, which group will he join? I put 4 options on the board. The first one is that he will simply join the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Why? Well, because he is a believer of Joyboy. He's a believer of Nika. So if he realizes that Luffy is that guy, he could want to follow the Grand Fleet and see the future that Joyboy will usher in. Second option is Kaido again. Maybe he wants to relive the good old days. He is that loyal, and he wants to join his OG dad. Third option is that he joins another Yonko, whether it's Blackbeard, Buggy, or Shanks. And then the fourth option is that he simply runs solo. That's a tough one. I think for this one, I like pretty much all the options, minus the other Yonko one. I can't see him vibing with Shanks. I don't think he'd vibe with Cross Guild. And Blackbeard, definitely not. So yeah, running solo makes sense. He is the last Lunarian. Maybe he settles down. He tries to repopulate a little bit. And yeah, maybe he just spreads his seed. Kind of like Marco, how he's retired now. Maybe King will retire now as well, since the Beast Warrior Pirates are more or less kaput. Let me see here. Kaido again. If there was one person from the Beast Pirates that were to stay with Kaido, I think it would just be Jack the Drought. Kaido was raising Jack up to be a protege, to be his successor. More or less. Yeah, that's like headcanon right there. But he really hyped up Jack. Dude, when the Minks were beating him down, he said, whoa, don't do that to Jack. Hey, he's got a lot of potential. The way he worded that interaction, it seemed like he was talking to his son or something, right? Like, leave my boy alone, anybody but him. So yeah, I feel like Kaido and Jack are like 2 peas in a pod. King also right there as well, but damn. We do know that King is very loyal though. He did get saved by Kaido originally, and we do know that, King was the one commander that Kaido was going to bring with him to Marineford until Shanks stopped him. So I don't think being with Kaido again is necessarily a bad option. I just think it would be unfortunate if King was a villain again. especially because he wants to see the world that Joyboy would create. So, you know, if Kaido at this point knows he's not Joyboy, and if he ever wants to fight Luffy again, it's like, okay, King, now you're just getting in our way, brother. Now you're just getting in Joyboy's way. So if I had to pick one, I would veer more towards Straw Hat Grand Fleet, then running solo, and then Kaido, and then this option last, the other Yonko option last. So, on to the comment section, let's see what everybody is saying here. This says, he realizes Luffy is Joyboy because of what Kaido said, so he goes after him and fights for us. Yep. Could simply show up at the final war. You know, King shows up at Marijois, gets back his homeland. Maybe he interacts with the Seraphim, which would be pretty cool, huh? Imagine knowing you're the last of your people, and then you run into the Seraphim. It's like, whoa, what the hell is this? Dude, there's more of me? Why do they look like the warlords? That must be a surreal feeling. He's probably going to be looking for the one that defeated Kaido, though I can imagine that is on site with the nerd of hell for him. Wait, what? Though I can imagine that it's on site with the nerd of hell for him. The nerd of hell. I've never heard this one. I was like, wait, nerd? Yeah, he sees Zoro and he just wants to fight him immediately. I don't know. I can't imagine King being a guy who holds grudges. And especially with Zoro getting stronger. Dude, if King were to run it back, I don't know if it'd go too well for him. Especially now that they know the weakness of Lunarians. Like, nah, dude, nah. He runs solo, fights alongside the Straw Hats. I just want to see if he'll run into the Seraphims. Would be a crazy interaction. Does he help take them down as the one true Lunarian, or possibly save some and make a Lunarian hybrid crew? Would be interesting. Wishful thinking. It'd be cool if he led them. I think it'd be cool if he became their dad. Like, hey, Seraphim, follow me to the motherland, to Shangara, to Marijois. He joins Barbell and Sunbell. Yeah, the triad. One winged angel. King only comes back if Kaido does. It already shows in the final war mural in chapter 1138 of the manga that a Lunarian fights with Joyboy. To be fair, we don't know exactly if this is in the second world or third world yet. It's still up in the air with a lot of people. It's still very debatable. I personally think it's current day, so I would agree with you. I do think a Lunarian fights with Joyboy, and it could simply be King. But of course, in the past, that probably happened as well. This says, Kaido told King who he is waiting for to appear, and I'm sure Kaido only had positive things to say about Joyboy. So I'd say King would probably want to see what Joyboy is really about and follow him, not as a crew member, but as an ally for sure. Yeah, I guess that's one thing, right? I think people generally believe that he will help the Straw Hats, but he might not, like, you know, toast and join the fleet. I definitely should have worded this one a little bit differently. King was waiting for Joyboy. Kaido got introduced to that concept by him. If Kaido is still alive, 99% chance he is, then both of them are likely forming a mini party for the final war. Dude. I mean, it's very anime. If you watch like other shonens, like big series, it is very anime. But I can already imagine it. Luffy is on the ground. He's like, you know, I'm exhausted. And then we got like a bad guy coming in to attack him. And then boom! King and Kaido saying, come on, Joyboy, get up. What are you doing? Create that world, brother. Oh, yeah. You gotta admit, that is so run-of-the-mill for shonen anime. Go back to any major series like Naruto, Bleach, MHA. In the final war, villains literally show up and help the MC. It is quite literally their bread and butter to do. This says, why is Luffy not on the list when Brother's been waiting for Joyboy? Why is Luffy not on the list? Is it because I didn't word this properly? The Straw Hat Fleet. Probably with Kaido, but if Kaido is dead, he'll run solo until he runs into the other Straw Hats and sees Nika Joyboy. Then he'll team up with them, but definitely won't join them. Now he knows Luffy is the next Joyboy. Grand Fleet or maybe solo, but on the Straw Hat side. King has to mentor the Seraphim in some way, maybe teach them about their lineage, if they even care to know. I don't think they care. They have the personalities of the warlords, but they're also like amalgamations. Like, would they care about the Lunarian lore? Maybe. That's such a weird one, right? The Seraphim. What do they do once the command chips have been broken? What do they do once the Gorosei no longer exist and they're just let loose? That's tough. That's tough. It makes sense if he joins Luffy, because in the flashback, he said that he was looking for Joyboy, and Kaido said that if no one beats him, then he is Joyboy. A Yonko crew where he is the most protected too. I personally want to see Alber cross paths with Katakuri because both of them struggle with being open about their physical appearance. Maybe they will duke it out on who is the stronger right-hand man. Oh, yeah? Yeah, Katakuri and King. I love the Yonko commanders, man. Bring them all back for like an Avengers women moment. That'd be kind of fire. People keep saying that someone will join the Shirai Grand Fleet, but that never will happen. King comes back as a cameo in the Final War montage. Runs solo. Has to leave the arc. He reappears for self-discovery. Duels with Katakuri, and they make a duo after the stalemate. I love how a lot of people are just pairing him with Katakuri. That's so funny, dude. By the way, Katakuri. Let's see here. This one says, I mean, I just don't see what point there would be for him to come back. Maybe for more exposition on the Lunarians, but Oda could just do a dedicated flashback for it. I mean, it could be that King gives us the dedicated flashback, right? Or, you know, as we're up in the Holy Land, he drops the lore on, like, where they originally lived. Is it the Red Desert? Is it Shangara? Was it just simply Marie Joie? Was it Eve Tree related even? I think King could be a really fascinating character to bring back into the series, not as a villain, but simply as an ally. And, you know, looking back at that Vegapunk message, Oda showed us all these one-off characters from races that have essentially been extinguished, right? We saw the Three-Eyed Tribe, we saw the Buccaneers, and King was right alongside him. And, of course, we had the Mermaids. So it's like, yeah, like, I think King could come back. Maybe he knows something about the Void Century. Maybe he knows something about the ancient weapons. And he's a changed man. But as per usual, we will see, brothers. But yeah, that's enough speculation for today. Let me know what you guys think about all of this down below. Where is King? Where will he go? Is Kaido even alive? Which, kind of funny looking at this now, right? People who are saying that he's with Kaido again implies that Kaido is alive. And I tend to agree with that. I don't think he'll be dead for sure. I think he'll be pacified in a sense where he won't come back as a villain, but that's just me, you know. All opinions here, all fine and dandy. Gotta leave the door open. You know, One Piece is a crazy series in general, so anything is really possible, man. But yeah, let me know all of those thoughts. Now that we have reached the end of today's video, you guys take care. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a great rest of your day, brothers.